Resident Evil turned 20 in 2016 and has been lodging it big time. Not only do we have a brand spanking new entry in the gaming series with Resident Evil 7, but the guilty pleasure that is the film franchise is gifting us its final chapter. Across its 20-year reign, Resident Evil has given us such wonders as tank controls, Chris Redfield's biceps, this kick-ass film stunt, and of course...
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Very thin.
And if you're a fan of the franchise, definitely make sure to check out GameSpot's main YouTube channel for our review of Resident Evil 7 and an in-depth documentary about the rise, fall, and future of the survival horror series. So while Resident Evil is one of the most popular and well-known franchises in gaming, here are 6 Resident Evil facts you might not know.
When you think about the world of the undead, it's hard for the name George Romero not to come up. He is, after all, the granddaddy of the shambling zombie.
Not satisfied with his dozens of other zombie and horror films, he was also on board to direct the first Resident Evil movie. He even helmed a commercial for Resident Evil 2, allowing us just the smallest glimpse of what a full Romero film may have looked like. Romero put every effort into making the movie a loyal recreation of the game, even going as far as hiring someone to play it on tape for him so he could study details of the levels and characters to add to the film. And despite all the time and energy he put into making a loyal movie homage, Capcom rejected his scripts. Producer Yoshiki Okamoto said that Romero's script wasn't good, so he was fired. Brutal.
A shame really, but the Romero version of the Resi movie probably wouldn't have had a man getting cubed by lasers, so there's that.
Carry on my wayward son, there'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest, don't you cry no more.
If you've seen previous episodes of Screenplay, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of Supernatural, season 1 to 5. It's a show in which 2 male models / brothers moonlight as demon hunters and occasionally make Zoolander references.
I call this one the Blue Steel.
Yeah, that's great.
What you may not know is that Jensen Ackles, who plays Dean Winchester in the show, was actually in the running to bring his slaying skills to the big screen in Resident Evil Afterlife, where he'd play everyone's favourite floppy-haired zombie-killing RCPD officer, Leon Kennedy. Unfortunately, Leon was benched in Afterlife and was instead replaced with boulder-punching extraordinaire Chris Redfield. Jensen Ackles was then being lined up to take on the role of Leon in Resident Evil Retribution, but couldn't commit as, according to Milla Jovovich, he was busy filming a TV show.
Awkward.
As well as being based on a rather successful series of video games, the first Resident Evil movie borrowed quite a lot from Lewis Carroll's trippy tome Alice in Wonderland. Because what film made after 1950 hasn't borrowed something from Alice in Wonderland? According to the commentary track for the film, director Paul W.S. Anderson, my hometown of Newcastle's proudest export after Brown Ale and Jimmy Nail, told the actors to understand their roles by way of Alice in Wonderland characters. Other references to the book are slightly more obvious when you watch the movie. Milla Jovovich's character is straight up called Alice, and the ratty AI security system is called the Red Queen. While the scary little ghost girl doesn't scream "off with her head" quite like Carol's does, there is a nice little nod when the first victim of her bizarre laser grid gets decapitated. To get to Umbrella's secret underground bunker, the Hive, you've got to go through a mirror. Do you get it? Through a looking glass? Oh, and irritating Matt's irritating sister Lisa gets brained by an Alice in Wonderland paperweight. Nice.
Everyone remembers the classic static camera angles of the original Resident Evil, and for the most part, the series has been a third-person affair. But did you know that the original Resident Evil was almost a first-person shooter?
A prototype was in creation for the idea, possibly inspired by the success of Doom. However, Capcom selected Alone in the Dark to model its new gameplay style. We do, however, have some concept art for the two characters, including a cyborg named Gelza and a comic relief character based on Eddie Murphy called Dewey. While we never got to see that particular Resi prototype, a modder by the name of Rod Lima has recreated the opening of the game entirely in first person from Jill's perspective.
Of course, Resident Evil 7 is now in first person, but it wouldn't have been the original Resident Evil 1 without tank controls and those awkward, fear-inducing camera angles.
Classic Resi character Jill Valentine was brought to life on the big screen by actress Sienna Gilroy. And while you gotta give the movie props for keeping true to her blue tank top, black miniskirt combo, that could not have been fun to film in Ontario, Canada, in November. Anyway, to get to the heart of the character and portray her accurately, Gilroy studied Jill's movements by watching playthroughs of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I think she means for the idle animations and not the tanky way that Jill walks around the place. After making it through the events of Resident Evil Apocalypse, Sienna was asked to return for its sequel Extinction, which she declined. Maybe because they didn't write a quote into her contract, or because she had a role in the next surefire box office hit, a franchise that some said would be bigger than Harry Potter. I'm talking, of course, about Aragon. Yeah. Well, she did come back for Afterlife and Retribution, where somehow in the middle of a zombie-ridden apocalypse, she managed to find someone who could bleach her hair. You go, girl.
Ada Wong, Resident Evil's troublesome lady in red, was added to the movie series for Resident Evil Retribution and proved to be as untrustworthy as her virtual counterpart. But the similarities between the two versions extend beyond her mischievous personality. In Retribution, Ada is played by Chinese actress Li Bingbing, but the voice you hear in the movie isn't actually hers. Those dulcet tones belong to Sally Cahill, who wasn't actually credited for her appearance in the movie. Die-hard Resident Evil fans will know that Cahill is also the voice of Ada in the video game series. Apparently, getting Ada Wong's voice right was really important in staying faithful to the franchise. The rest of it, not so much. As an added bonus, if you thought the scene in which main character Alice meets Ada for the first time seemed a bit familiar, that's because it's pretty much a recreation of when Leon runs into Ada in Resident Evil 4. Also, this is probably the only opportunity we'll get to put in the dubbed version of Arnold Schwarzenegger from Hercules in New York. So here it is.
I'm tired of the same old faces, the same old thing.
So there you have it, 6 Resident Evil facts that you may not have known. Of course, Resident Evil The Final Chapter's arrival in cinemas coincides with the release of Resident Evil 7. Can we stop this, please?
Thank you. Anyway, in the lead up to Resident Evil 7's launch, we published a 2-part documentary looking back at the rise, fall, and future of the Resident Evil video game series. It features insight from modern horror game developers and a thorough analysis of the series' progression, so check it out. We also reviewed Resident Evil 7 and gave it quite a bit of praise, but if you're still on the fence about it, you can check out Dave being tormented by Jack Baker in our Resident Evil 7 Let's Play. We'll be back for more screenplay next week, so make sure to subscribe to GameSpot Universe and we'll see you then.